All right. Okay, I can see Coin Solar. So just do name, what you do, and where you are joining the call from, right? So mine will be Temidayo, compliance consultant. I'm joining from the city of Lagos, the most beautiful city in the world. All right.
Okay. I think I agree with you, right? So,
Yeah, Dr. Austin agrees with me, so
right,
that's a good one. Except for when it's raining on the island. Well, let's not talk
right.
about that yet.
Yes, it's normal. Maybe I can do my intro as well. So we can just kick off. Is that okay?
Please, Lisa, go ahead. Yes.
Right. So let's even put a face to the name, shall we? Um, okay, so my name is Austin Opago, and I'm the content director at Verto, and I love payments, basically. So it's good to be here to speak today as well.
Amazing,
Mm.
amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Austin. All right, Mr. Toby. So I think you just go up next. Your name. So I will still do proper intros, but for the sake of introductions.
Great. Hi everyone. My name is Toby and I'm an AML transaction monitoring professional at AfriX. AfriX is a cross-border payment platform that helps you send money from US, Canada, and UK to countries in Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, South Africa, other. Surely glad to be here. And
I think I'm struggling to hear you a bit. Is it just me? Let me confirm that.
anybody else from the world.
That's the only one.
Your mic or something is kind of
Okay, okay. It's kind of muffled. Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Do you want
so
me to am I clear now? Do you want me to go again?
yeah, it's kind of a bit, but we can hear you now.
You want to like circle back to me then? Let me just keep it.
All right, okay, that's fine. All right, sir. All right, we have Tunde on the call also. Ma, I think you could just go up now.
Hi, good morning,
Just quick
everyone.
intros.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me clearly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yetunde Olasope, and I am the founding.
Fantastic,
Okay,
fantastic.
good. I'm the founding principal of a firm, a full-service law firm in Lagos called Lexworth Legal Partners. We have a wide array of clients, including clients in the financial services sector. And at some point in my life, I was a chief compliance officer of the financial services group. That's what piqued my interest in AML CFT. And it has come to be very handy in servicing our financial services clients at the law firm at Lexworth. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Ma. So grateful to have you. Thanks for taking out your time to speak with us. All right, so Mr. Toby, if do you have you been able to sort it out a bit?
Yes, Temidayo, can you confirm?
Fantastic.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, my name is Toby Loba Adeshilo, right? And I'm an AML and transaction monitoring professional at AfriX. AfriX is a cross-border payment platform that helps you send money from the US, Canada, and the UK to African countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and others. And again, I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking out your time to be with us. All right. So for the intros on the call, we have Coin Solar from Nigeria. We have Calvin from Nairobi, Kenya. We have Abimbola from Chicago. We have Abayomi from Nigeria. We have Ifeanyi from Lagos. We have Coin Solar from Plateau State. Timiloluwa from Lagos. We have a host of other persons. Thank you everyone for joining. Please, as you're joining, just do well to drop your name, your where you're joining the call from, and what you do. All right. So I see we have a couple of lawyers on the call. So I think we would we will try to navigate the conversation in a way that it's open to, because it's going to be released to our general public, so it's going to be tailored towards not just legal practitioners, but also founders and builders within the ecosystem. So I think we'll just go straight. We have spent about 10 minutes already, and we want to be on time. So I would go ahead to take the profiles of the speakers, and we would then begin the session in full. So we're going to start in this format. Each speaker is going to have about 20 minutes to answer a couple of pre-selected questions, and just to provide their insights into it. Where there are follow-up questions, do drop for the audience. Please kindly drop it on the chat box, right? And then we will just have a great conversation. So once we go through each of the speakers, ask about 3 to 4 questions. We will then open the floor for general questions, which they will take turns to respond to. After that, they will give final words, final feedbacks, final remarks on the conversation so far, and then we'll take questions from the audience, and we'll call it a fantastic day. All right. So I think we'll just head right into it. I would start with Mr. Toby, in no particular order, really. But I'll just start with Mr. Toby. All right. So permit me to read his official citation. All right. So Mr. Toby Adeshile is a cross-border payment and fintech compliance professional with strong expertise in AML investigation, transaction monitoring, KYC, and risk assessment. He works at Afriex, a leading global money movement fintech, enabling seamless international transfers across Africa and the diaspora. With several years of hands-on experience spanning across compliance operations, user onboarding, fraud detection, customer protection, Mr. Toby Loba has built a reputation of applying practical and risk-based approach to safeguarding fintech platforms operating in emerging and high-risk markets. Mr. Toby Loba served as a KYC analyst in Cheaper Cash, where he performed identity verification, sanctions screening, and onboarding for multiple clients in Africa. He later expanded his scope as marketing campaign manager offline activations at Cheaper Cash, where he led grassroots campaigns. Today at Africa, Mr. Toby Loba leads a team of transaction monitoring analysts where he conducts detailed investigation on suspicious activities, leads EDD reviews, identifying typology of fraud, AML, CFT, and misuse of financial products. His work spans across the regulatory standards of the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Africa as a whole. Mr. Toby Loba continues to contribute to the company's mission of simplifying cross-border payments and enabling users to perform cross-border transactions. He plays a critical role in ensuring Africa scales its cross-border payment responsibly and its global accounts to strengthen regulatory infrastructure. Professionals like him help maintain compliance without compromising the user experience. What an amazing profile. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Toby Adeshile to the Regcompass webinar. Please use the buttons. Use those clap buttons. Please use the clap buttons. Yes. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. All right, Mr. Toby, thank you so much. Please, you can turn on your mics and your video cam. So I think we could just start with a bit of an introduction. I like to be a bit more interactive, and I want you to just share, seeing that we have quite a number of compliance professionals and KYC professionals, seeing your journey across board. Um, what would you say are the, and I'm just starting off on this note, all right? What would you say are the um, necessary things or necessary factors that you see every compliance compliance professional and every lawyer or analyst who is playing in this space ought to know and ought to have in order to be able to develop a strong and a solid career in the AML compliance space as a way of an introduction for your journey personally?
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. So really, so far, I would say one of the skills you need to actually look out for, or you need to ensure you have, is attention to details, right? So there are, certain little things that you don't just let go. As as small as little transactions, can trigger extensive investigations and all of that. So attention to details is important. Another thing is, uh, you know, experience, right, is one thing, but yeah, even if you don't have a previous experience, you should be teachable, right? Be open-minded, be open to learning from other people, and every day, I try as much as possible to embed into your daily activities uh, uh, these compliance activities, the things you learn every day from compliance, try to embed them in your daily activities. And, over time, you get to develop and grow in the space. So that's just it, basically.
Fantastic, fantastic. So if I got it right, you said attention to details, giving yourself to knowledge and experience, and exposing yourself over time to these things. Thank you so much. That's very insightful there. So let's head right into the topic of the day. It's no news that bad actors are getting much more. What's the word now? Much more experienced. All right, and we're seeing new typologies come into play. New ways that people would use products. I was reading something on Twitter. There was a founder that shared a DM of one of their users who used their product in a way, and then he tweeted and said that users will use your product in ways you never even imagined it could be used. And it was so funny because bad actors get much more insightful. And so with financial crime now extending even beyond fraud and beyond all the proliferation finance, terrorism finance, money laundering, and all of these things. As someone who leads a transaction monitoring team, someone who leads a full-fledged compliance team, what would you say are like specific red flags that your team is now prioritizing in terms of transaction monitoring to detect these evolving typologies? I think maybe as a way of answering, you could probably maybe cite new evolving typologies that I know a lot of like romance scams and all of these things, pitch version, all of these things are getting much more involved and attempts for people to even bypass sanctions, controls, and all of these things. So, as someone who leads this team, what are the ways that you are currently tackling it? And for everybody on the call here who probably has a team, they are also leading or a part of the team. How would you advise that they go about navigating this new age, typology?
Yeah, great question, Temida. So first, I would like us to talk about some of these typologies, fraud typologies, right? Let's start with romance scam. You mentioned romance scam, right? So romance scam, we all know Yahoo Boys, yeah. So romance scam is one of their go-to formats. Let me put it that way, right? So in romance scam, a fraudster gets a victim, right? They deceive the victim. They pretend to be in a relationship, in a romantic relationship with the victim. Just for the sake of, or with the goal, okay, with the goal of extorting them at the end of the day. They may come up with stories like, oh, they need financial assistance to treat a family member that is sick, or they need funds to process their traveling documents to come pay you a visit, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, their end goal is just to get funds out of you, right? So that's romance scam. I think you also mentioned pig butchering, right? Yeah, so pig butchering is also like sort of similar to romance scam, but this is more of like a long-term financial scam thing, right? So they keep nurturing, they keep, feeding their victims with, affection, just pretense, affection, love, and all of that relationship. But their major goal at the end of the day is to trick you or deceive you into investing in maybe platforms like trading platforms, which are actually fake. So their goal is just to get large sum of money from you at the end of the day. So when they are satisfied with what they get from you, they just disappear and run away with your money, right? So how do we deal with these kinds of fraud typologies? So you actually should look out for, as a team of transaction monitoring professionals or compliance officers, you need to actually look out for certain red flags when it comes to cases like this. I don't want to take much time, so I'll just mention a few. Right. One of the red flags is structuring. Right. So structuring basically is breaking down a large sum of money into smaller parts just to avoid detection. So look out for transactions that are frequent, small frequent transactions that are just passing through. That should actually, like I said earlier, you have to pay attention to details because they are small transactions. Do not mean that you can just ignore them, right? So you have to pay attention to that. Pick that up. Small frequent transactions over time, right? And then there is also source of funds declaration. Let me put it as a KYC and account activity mismatch, right? So maybe during the KYC, which is know your customer, for the sake of those of us that don't know the full meaning of KYC, know your customer, right? So if a customer declares their source of funds or their source of wealth to be, say, also, okay, let me say their occupation to be health attendant, right? And such person is already transacting up to like $80,000 or $50,000 in a month. I mean, they don't match, right? So cases like that, red flags like that are supposed to be noted as well. So KYC and account activity mismatch, that's another red flag that should be noted. Another red flag is when when a customer transacts on a platform over time, you get to know them, right? You understand their behavior, their account activities and their behavior and all of that. So when there is a change, a sudden change in beneficiary, there is a new beneficiary that just pops up on their history, without any good explanation, with vague explanation. I mean, that's something to look out for as well, right? And then I would also like to mention this. This is actually more common, especially when it comes to account takeover. Suspicious digital behavior, like when there is a change in IP address of a customer, or when there is a change in their device IDs. It may be that the account is being taken over by somebody else, or there's a change of location. An account is previously being accessed in, say, Ghana, but all of a sudden it's being accessed in Portugal. Things like that have to be noted. Yeah, so that's basically how we can actually look out and prevent these fraud schemes. Thank you.
Wow, that's a whole masterclass already in transaction monitoring. Amazing. So if I caught it, you mentioned structuring. All right. You mentioned KYC mismatch. You mentioned suspicious activities, that suspicious behavior. Um, um, you cited putting in a new beneficiary, and then you mentioned sudden change in digital details that can be a red flag for account takeover. Change in IP address, change in location, change in devices. That's very insightful. So now there, and I believe that there are even much more red flags that maybe time has not even permitted you to be able to go into. And so I want to believe that it's really not possible for an entire team to sit down from morning till night looking at all of these things manually. I mean, there are people that probably are onboarding on AfriX around 4 a.m. in the morning, or in a country with a different time zone. So that brings us to the conversation of RegTech tools or RegTech solutions or automated solutions. All right. The CBN, I think it was August. I think it's August, right, 2020, where they released the baseline standard for automated transaction monitoring, the incorporation of artificial intelligence and machine learning based tools in transaction monitoring detection. And so the question has been going around in the ecosystem on how best players in the industry can take advantage of that for transaction monitoring. And I just want you to speak to that a bit because we all know that RegTech tools are very expensive, right? And African fintechs, or even global fintechs, mostly operate with a tighter budget. And we're still going to get to that conversation, which is the question I'm going to ask everybody. You know, people feel like compliance doesn't make money for us. Why should we put so much budget on, right? And so, from your perspective in your team, right, what would you say are the must-haves or the non-negotiables that every fintech or every industry player must put in as an investment in RegTech, say come 2026, as we prepare for the next year?
Okay, cool. Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but the compliance team can be seen as, I mean, this thing, they just be chop money, I don't know that, right? Because, yeah, reg tech systems or tools they can be quite expensive, right? So, but then, just as you've had, there are certain non-negotiable tools, some certain tools that are non-negotiable. You cannot just do without not having them, right? So one of them, which is, to me, is one of the most important, is KYC systems. Yeah, KYC, as I mentioned earlier, means know your customer. So KYC systems, not just KYC systems, but KYC that comes with liveness check. I had mentioned account takeover earlier. Liveness checks is one of the things that helps to avoid or prevent account takeovers, right? Liveness check now, when they ask you to, lift your face, left, right, and all of that, yeah. So that is one of the non-negotiables, right? KYC process, very, very important. Another non-negotiable is ongoing sanctions and watch list screening. Sanctions, what are sanctions? Sanctions are actually official restrictions that has been placed on a person or an individual or an organization by a government or an international body, right? Probably just to stop them from going on with their illegal activities or maybe threatening activities or anything like that. So there are people that are already on the sanctions list or on watch list or on watch list. Watch list is sort of similar to sanctions list as well. Watch list is a list of a database of individuals, people, or entities that are being closely monitored, for the sake of fraud or something like that, or other illegal activities. So for that, it's also a non-negotiable. You can actually not do without having a system that puts that in check. There has to be like an ongoing, real-time, check for sanctions and watch lists. Another non-negotiable, excuse me, is your transaction monitoring systems. Right. For transaction monitoring systems, we have third parties that actually do that. Third party apps like Hummingbird, Vaneuron, SumSub, a lot of them. Right. So, that's also a non-negotiable. Right. Yeah. We can keep going on and on and on and on, but those are literally, non-negotiables that I can actually mention now. And what else?
The core ones.
Sorry. Are you saying something to me, Dayo?
Wow. Thank you so much. No, yes, I'm with you. Yeah, I was saying yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you still speaking? So sorry.
I wanted to get if that was the only thing you asked. Did you
Oh
get it?
yes. That was it. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. So you mentioned KYC systems, liveliness check, ongoing sanctions and watch list updates, and transaction monitoring systems. I mean, I think I myself could not have said it any better. I think those are like at least the the baselines and the non-negotiables in that wise, right? Thank you so much, Mr. Toby. I still have some questions for you, but I think I want to hear from the other speakers so we can have a more robust conversation, and once they're done, we'll have a more roundtable conversation. So I want to hear also now from Mrs. Yetunde. So I will read our profile, and before I go into some of our questions. Um, Mrs. Yetunde Olashokwe, please permit me if I Olashokwe
Accurate.
is the founding
Olasope.
Olasokwe. All right, thank you,
Yes.
ma. Yetunde Olasokwe is the founding partner of Lexword Legal Partners and a member of the prestigious Chartered Institute of Directors. She holds a Master's of Law from the high-ranked London School of Economics and Political Science, complementing our solid legal foundation with a degree from the University of Ibadan and the business acumen she garnered from her time at the Lagos Business School, with a career spanning over 2 decades. Yetunde has amassed a wealth of experience, having excelled as both a law firm practitioner and a trusted advisor on complex legal matters within a corporate organization. Our competencies encompasses corporate and commercial advisory, banking and finance, including corporate finance, venture capital, mergers and acquisition, capital market advisory, regulatory compliance, data privacy and protection, AML CFT compliance, and corporate governance. Currently, Yetunde serves as the legal and regulatory compliance consultant at Maxot Consulting Limited, an authorized data protection compliance organization in Nigeria. Throughout her career, she has demonstrated exceptional versatility and leadership. At one of Nigeria's foremost law firms, she played an integral role in the corporate, commercial, and finance practice groups, gaining invaluable exposure to high value business and financial transactions, capital market operations, and an array of corporate deals. Our expertise further expanded during her tenure at a leading Nigerian conglomerate, where she held pivotal positions as manager of legal and regulatory affairs and team lead of commercial transactions. In these roles, she provided legal advisory, corporate governance, and company secretarial services to 9 active entities within these groups, while advising numerous special purpose vehicles on innovative business ventures across sectors such as power, engineering, construction, oil and gas downstream, manufacturing, telcos, real estate, and security services. Before establishing Lexford Legal, Yetunde has also held senior roles in the prominent financial service group, serving as both head of legal and chief compliance officer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Regcompass webinar officially, Mrs. Yetunde Olasokwe. Please, a round of applause. I want you to use that button. I want you to use it. Yes. I need to see it pop up.
Thank you very much. I mean, the only comment I have about that is, was that me that you were just reading about?
Was
And then
that
you
you,
said,
right?
okay,
I can imagine. And I think
anyway.
I literally I want to permit me for breaking character, but I really want to start from there. I mean, and not to be a bit salesy, but I mean, you look absolutely young and dashing for someone with that
Oh, thank you so much. Very kind of you.
depth of career.
Thank
Please,
you.
ma, for for the up
Don't
and
call me
coming
Ma. It's
consultants
okay.
and lawyers in the space. I mean, I think I would start with the same question I asked Mr. Toby. Um, for young lawyers, young consultants in the space, especially lawyers who have that passion to tow that professional trajectory. If you were probably back at the beginning of your career with the level and the depth of insight you have right now, what are the things that you would be doing that you believe will probably have gotten you here faster than it did?
That's an easy and difficult question. Well, not difficult actually. It's easy. It's just be dedicated to your craft and be dedicated to your growth. What you need to do is learn, be open to learn, do the work, put in the needful work, and learn from experts in the industry or people that have gone before you. It's just putting in the hard work. And as Toby said, if you're going to be an AML CFT practitioner or compliance, practitioner, attention to detail is completely non-negotiable. You have to, have that patience to, look into those transactions, the trends, etc., and know what you're looking out for. So it's a combination of ensuring you're trained, ensuring you are open to learning the new trends, global trends, local trends, and just putting in the work and attention to detail. That's what I would say.
Fantastic.
And of course, with all things, I'm a woman of faith, with providence, God helping you, you'll meet the right people who can, help you, pull you up and give you a leg up. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay,
You
so
can stop this
let's get
business.
right
It's
into the
okay.
conversation.
Mr. Regcompass. It's okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Pardon the traditional man in me. All right. All right. So, let's talk a bit about one of the elephants in the regulatory compliance room, right? Which is VASPs, digital asset service providers, virtual asset service providers, and I mean, as most people call it, crypto companies, right? Um, I want us to have a bit of a conversation around that, especially as it pertains to um, how the regulatory landscape around VASPs are currently being structured in African jurisdictions. Now, while a couple of African jurisdictions have already done some great work in having dedicated VASP laws, I know that during the course of the week, I think, either this week or last week, Kenya released their VASP bill, right, that is going to be assigned into law. I know that I think it was this week, right? South Africa's own is already in works, and then we have some other countries that still are yet to catch up. And so, while most of these laws rely on financial law interpretation to execute it, from your perspective as a legal consultant and as a compliance consultant, what would you say are like the biggest regulatory or legal inconsistencies that most VASPs, especially those who kind of have a broad range across multiple African countries, what would you say are the major inconsistencies and the biggest challenges that they are likely to face for someone building it across multiple countries?
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, you've already kind of laid the background for what exists, the different levels of I don't want to say, well, regulatory developments in that area across Africa. South Africa, as you know, is leading or led the pack. We've kind of caught up in Nigeria. So South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, for instance, we have the laws that are actually regulating these VASPs. to use the acronym. In other jurisdictions, I think it's more in East Africa-ish, Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, for instance, they don't have those laws, but they do have the requirements for, just using their financial services, regulatory regime for VASP operators. Ghana, for instance, is still at the stage of developing its bill, although it says it's ready, it's not fully exposed yet, but in the meantime, players in that space are required to register with the central bank, Bank of Ghana, and adhere to AML-CFT regime in that jurisdiction. Of course, the other countries I've mentioned as well, there has to be some form of adherence to AML-CFT regime. Those that have their own laws, it's embedded into their law. Those that don't have specific laws to VASPs, it's embedded in their general financial services regulatory regime. Of course, in some other countries, VASPs are banned, like Ethiopia, I believe, for instance, and others are just, catching up. There's activity, obviously, but, generally unregulated. So in terms of, the consistencies or inconsistencies, because as you said, there's some players that have, wide coverage, or their intention is to have a wide coverage, or already have wide coverage, a continent wide. It's just, I'll mention a few because we can't, cover all of them. For example, of course, as we've already mentioned, the need for registration. There's some countries that you actually have to register and get a license. So not just registration, but licensing. So some you have to get a license. Some you just register with the central bank, for instance, in Ghana. Some you don't need any registration at all, but you have to conform with the AML-CFT, PF requirements. That, for example, can be a bit of a hassle, especially in jurisdictions such as maybe Nigeria and Kenya, where you actually need like local presence. So you need to incorporate a company and be physically present in such countries, while in some you don't need to. So there's some inconsistencies in trying to kind of, have a regulatory framework or compliance framework where in some instances you have to, be physically present, some you don't. And also, of course, coming to things like capital requirements, minimum share capital requirements. Some jurisdictions, have those requirements. Some are vague. Nigeria, for instance, depending on what field you're playing in as an exchange provider, etc. There's a range of 100 million naira to, I think, 1 billion minimum share capital requirement. In South Africa, it just says something about you have to have substantial means, or whatever that would mean. I guess it's leaving it to the regulator to determine on a case-by-case basis. And in Kenya, they haven't, put a particular figure, but they will eventually. Obviously, if you're going to apply for a license, for instance, they would determine what your capital requirements are. Also, I think another difference also is in the definition. I mean, the definition of digital assets, or virtual assets, generally globally is very similar, although it varies in some different jurisdictions. So for example, in like Kenya, I think Nigeria and South Africa, there's the inclusion of like the definition of stable coins. There's provision for stable coins. But in Nigeria, for instance, a stable coin is treated as a security, which means it's regulated by SEC. That's the Securities and Exchange Commission, and not the CBN. So, I mean, I don't want to go too much into it. I think the last one I would mention is like the travel rules of the, Financial Action Task Force. We can't speak about this without talking about them. They are trying to set, standards well, in fact, globally, not nationwide, where there's standards for AML-CFT compliance for, VASPs and related virtual asset companies. But that is still some way to go, even though they made recommendations to show how this is to be complied with. In their estimation, there is a need to get licensing and registration. But as I've already discussed or highlighted, not all jurisdictions have complied with this. But there's still a long line, well, relatively long amount of time for compliance to become mandatory. So we'll see how it goes. But you can imagine with the different regimes and the different requirements, it's not impossible, but obviously it will prove a little challenging for cross, border integration of a business that is looking to provide these services. But then it's not different with other, service providers in other areas as well. We find that challenging generally in Africa. Yes, thank you.
Wow. That's very interesting, actually. I mean, you mentioned inconsistencies in registration requirements, in licensing requirements, in local presence. Um, for that, having local content within your corporate
Yeah.
governance or your board structuring. You mentioned the inconsistencies in capital requirements. You mentioned the travel rule of the FATF. Are more interesting for me the divergent positions on the definition of virtual assets and digital assets. And I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the average founder who wants to build an innovative solution across board, and is getting a bit concerned about these multiple, inconsistencies. And so I think the next question literally asks itself, like, so what's the, I mean, from your perspective as a stakeholder, really, what's your thoughts on reconciling these things? Like, how can lawyers, policymakers, industry associations, and all of these stakeholders, how do you think we can best collaborate across these multiple jurisdictions to shift the regulatory environment of VASP from the unstable way, pardon my use of phrase, but maybe from that inconsistent, way into something more structured so as to encourage builders and innovators within that space?
I mean, I hear you, but it's an interesting question because, as I said, across multiple jurisdictions or sectors, you find this. It's a relatively, when I say relatively, I know it's been a number of years, relatively new introduction into the system. And with that, we can't escape that it will take time for maybe a harmonization or, finding, baseline, rules or common rules that apply, let's say, across the continent, because even globally makes it more difficult. But what I would say is definitely across all stakeholders, it's continuous open communication between the regulators, all stakeholders, sharing experiences. I mean, we see how in Nigeria, I'll use Nigeria as an example, sandboxes, etc., trying to, the regulator has set up sandboxes trying to, ensure the technology is right, but at the same time, it's a chance to see that, what are the challenges, what are the things that would help, in terms of compliance, etc. But I think it will take some time. I mean, we've already spoken about FATF and how, they're trying to propose, and their recommendations, so it's not compulsory, but if you want to not be gray or blacklisted, over time, it might make sense for you to comply with those. So I think it takes time. It takes time and it will continue to evolve over time. I mean, a classic example is, for example, in the fintech space, the license passporting, for instance, which in the European Union has become much more acceptable or applicable. But in Africa, it's still ways to go. I know using the AFCFTA, it will help, but it will take time. It will take time, and that's where we're looking to go. So just open communication, collaboration, so openness from both the regulatory standpoint and the player standpoint. I think Toby or you mentioned, the expense, the share expense and cost for compliance, for instance. How are we looking at African solutions to those types of problems? Because we are not on the same playing field as maybe European companies or the system that use complex and expensive, reg tech solutions to deal with some of these compliance challenges. You know what I mean? So it's in a nutshell, it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. We'll have to continue to keep open-minded. Obviously, there must be what should we call it? Advocacy on the part of the players, trying to advocate their positions to the regulator. The regulator must be open also to listen to players in the market, and hopefully at some point there'll be a meeting point that works for all stakeholders concerned. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I think, I mean, it goes without saying, webinars like this also contribute to that in terms of sparking those necessary conversations that we have.
Absolutely.
I saw Mr. Austin drawing thumbs up as you were talking. I was like, yeah. So worries, I'm coming. I'm getting to you now. So I think, just final question, right, for you, Tunde. Just before we wrap up, go to the next session. You mentioned regulatory sandbox. I just want to hear your thoughts on it. So personally, okay, let me not say what I think personally, right? The the SEC right now, right, has not been. I mean, we've not been able to get a lot of persons obtain the VASP license. I know that there are currently just two holders of it.
Yeah.
Most folks are just in the ARIP and the RIP, incubator system, and so
Yeah.
it elicits the question: what are your thoughts on the effectiveness of the regulatory sandbox? If at the end of the day,
Please don't get me in trouble.
I mean, do you consider it a long-term solution, or it's just a temporary make it not be like, say, we don't do something kind of thing?
I think you're trying to get me in trouble, though. But no, as I said,
No, I mean,
on a more serious note, look, it's relatively new in our part of the world. Do you understand? We're evolving, and I think the SEC is one of the more forward-thinking regulators, if we're going to be very honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to mention others on this webinar. So we will have teething problems, but I think not having it at all is a problem. Hopefully, with the right, thinkers at the helm of affairs, the process will become more effective. Implementation will become more effective, and it will over time bring the results required. We may not be there yet, but I think, with time, we should give some time and some grace to our regulators. The technology is so quick and evolving, it takes time to catch up. And we are still, developing in many ways. So I think that's what I would say. I don't want to.
Fantastic. Thank you for the wise response. Thank you so much. Wow. It's been such a great conversation. I literally wish we had all day so we could explore some more follow up questions. But I need to bring Mr. Austin up now so we can then have a roundtable conversation. Please, members of the audience, if don't mind me, we are having such a great time. So if you have questions, please do put your questions in the chat box, and the speakers are going to address them. If you have a specific speaker you want to address your question, you could just say, "Oh, this is to so and so." All right. So Dr. Austin is ready for us. I'm just going to read his citation. Dr. Austin Opagu is the country director for Virtu in Nigeria. In this capacity, he leads Virtu's strategic operations in the country and serves as a key driver of the firm's West African expansion. Dr. Okpagu was appointed as Virtu's first country director in Nigeria back in 2024, marking a significant milestone in the company's commitment to Nigeria and the broader West African market. Prior to his role at Verto, he had worked as the managing director of JumiaPay, where he led business development and partnerships in a highly competitive fintech environment. He also has deep experience in other leading fintechs in Nigeria, notably OPay and Pagatech, where he contributed immensely to the growth and strategic partnerships. As country director, Dr. Kwago oversees Verto's newly launched Lagos hub, which serves as a central anchor for its West African operation. Under his leadership, Verto Nigeria has achieved its commitment to local businesses by strengthening real-time liquidity for Naira and bringing clients closer to cross-border payments. Verto globally processes more than 25 billion US dollars in annual transactions across 200 plus countries in 49 currencies, a scale that Dr. Okwago is helping to replicate and deepen locally. His appointment has highlighted as Verto's long-term strategy to deepen its presence and to increase its regulatory engagement in building a customer-centric product in Africa. Dr. Okwago stands at the intersection of fintech innovation, market execution in Nigeria, with his deep roots in the Nigerian digital payment system and his leadership under Verto. He is well positioned to navigate both the macro financial challenges and the local regulatory landscape. His role is not just for Verto, but for the Nigerian enterprises and how it will increasingly access global financial infrastructure as a professional. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Austin Okbago. Please use the clap. I want to see a lot of claps, a lot of claps. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. And
Thank
thanks
you
for your
so
patience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just like Yetunde as well. Sometimes when these citations are, are read, we just get to ask ourselves, where did you guys see all this is from, right? Because I probably would deny myself, but thanks for, yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And I think I've asked both speakers. I think it's only right that I ask you because when reading these citations are very, very inspiring, and like we have quite a number of early stage professionals on the call also. Just like I've asked them, what would you say are very, very key, crucial factors that every young professional who wants to go sky high in this field ought to take note of at the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, thanks, Regcompass. Maybe you need to change that so we can call you by your name.
Timidayo is fine.
Well, thank you so much. And just to, I think that Toby and Yetunde have laid the groundwork here. But just in terms of, I don't think they are hard rules here, to be honest. So I joined the payment space in 2012, right? And when Paga got their mobile money license, and again, one can argue that at the time it was just feature phone, so you have to send an app through Bluetooth or infrared, and mobile money was like a scam or something like that. And over the years, I've realized that especially if you want to play the long game, you need to be patient, right? Um, because the technology we have right now is not the same it was 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or even 3 years ago. Things have changed. And as young professionals, the biggest challenge that we face is that we try to jump from one place to another, right? At the early stage, I spent 5 years at Paga, and those years I had opportunity to move, even at the second year or even at the third year. But I deliberately decided not to move. You know why? Because it was early on. For young professionals, there's a time to learn, there's a time to experiment, and there's a time to understand what this industry is about, right? And because also you learn all of that through startups, and startups is one environment that you can move from 0 to 100 in terms of your knowledge base, right? Unlike established businesses where you don't have a lot of opportunity to be very scrappy and to contribute to the growth of those businesses. And I think that also having the staying power, and not also to understand that most of the time it's not money. You don't move because of money of 1,000 or extra on yours. At the end of the day, the kind of people that is are also very important. So over a work with, right? And also knowing that managers are the ones that can either make you or mar your stay in any company. And that's very important. And then last but not least is also from the get-go, having a sense of ownership. Look, I think that one can truly grow personally as well as professionally if you are the go-to person where ownership is your first trait, right? And I've seen that work. I've seen that people who have this strong sense of ownership and who are internally motivated or intrinsically motivated can actually grow really fast, can go far as well. So those are the things I would like to say. And maybe last but not least is technology does not solve the entire problem, right? You can have the best idea as a founder, right? But if you apply the wrong solution to the wrong problem in Nigeria, you won't last more than 2 years. And we've seen several businesses that have, started and have shut down, right? I'm not sure if anyone have heard about there used to be Aso Villa demo day and all sort of things. When was the last time you heard about that? And then you had a lot of businesses that were invited to all those demo days and all sort of things. People wish the next shiny object. But I think people who truly build to solve problems are still staying back. And I can give you an example. Paga has been here for nearly about 15 years, right? What are they doing differently and why are they still staying? And those are basically the things I like to just highlight here. Yeah.
Wow, wow, what an answer. To be honest, I find that personally very, very instructive, right? That's very good. I mean, like you said, there's time and there's season for everything. There's a time to learn and the time to earn, right? Thank you so much for that. So I think I'll just go straight into it. Going through, I mean, what you do at Verto, I couldn't help but think about it as someone leading market entry because I believe that Verto is doing a global expansion. And so, as someone leading market entry, what would you say are concrete metrics that fintechs and payment companies or fintechs generally need to be tracking within the regulatory ecosystem of whatever country they are expanding to, and to also maybe prepare themselves for full licensing and to get their compliance game up the top?
I think one very key
What are
that, and
those
that
key metrics that you would say when you're going and you're doing market entry? This.
right. I think that there are a couple of them, and I believe I think Toby and Yetunde had mentioned, highlighted some of those, right? When they were discussing. Look, as a startup, especially a regulated startup or intending to be a regulated startup, there are a couple of non-negotiable, things that need to be in place, right? For example, compliance is, and I usually say this most of the time, or a lot of the time, I don't have a background in compliance, but because I have worked with multiple, startups that in the financial services sector, I've realized that I have visited EFCC several times, right? And I've visited police several times. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Each of those visits, we come out like clean. You know why? Do you know why? Tell me that do you know why?
Please,
Okay.
I want to learn because I visited the
Yeah,
EFCC too, so I want to hear from
yeah,
you.
yeah. And the truth is this: if any company that builds that takes compliance as the bedrock of their product and solutions
Mm,
from the get-go, right,
mm,
would stand a test of time, right? And
mm,
this has to do with anti-money laundering laws, CFTs and all those rules, right? AMM policies that need to be robust, need to be in place, right? Especially
mm,
for an FI or or a regulated entity. Very, very important. And so those are the things that are very important. And also tracking metrics such as licensing, right? You cannot launch a product without checking with, maybe even getting legal opinion about why you should launch this product. Like Yetunde mentioned, innovation moves faster than regulation here in Nigeria, right? And it's very tough for regulators to catch up with innovation, right? And which is good and which is also bad, right? And so what you see happen is that regulators are doing catch up with innovation, which is not bad, right? But ensuring that before you launch that product, you have checked if there are no licenses that cater to the kind of product that you're trying to launch, and then you try and work with, folks who have the expertise, who can give you legal opinion, who can give you compliance opinion, right? And I think these are some of the things that Yetunde and obviously Toby, who are expert in compliance, can even obviously give. So pretty much critical. And if at all you don't even have the license, what are the other ways you can do that? Again, this is what the likes of not, I think, Regcompass, no, the other entity, your merchant of record solution, right, would enable you to be able to launch solution in other markets without you necessarily having the license, but because they're already doing the groundwork for you, right? And so I think that beyond that is also ensuring that from the beginning, you have a stable compliance team, not contractors, right? Not contractors from the beginning. If you must use consultant, then you need to make sure that these consultants fully understand the kind of product that you're trying to build. Because the truth is this, one thing I have noticed is that some consultants, right, would typically take your money and give you a white paper and then disappear. When the regulators come for you, this consultant can help you. There's nothing they can do, right? So I think that it's also very important that you have all of this in place. And also, obviously, there are sandboxes now. You will know when you're trying to test a new product or a new solution. You will know if that solution fit into what the climate is talking about, right? And also, the biggest mistake that we all do is that if you're a company that have multiple you have multiple offices in different countries, especially in Africa, the temptation is for you to have different compliance teams across different markets. As you know why? Because across the African markets, the regulations are different, right? Someone spoke about, licensed passporting. We're not just there yet, right? But before then, what is happening is that understanding the local requirements across all the market that you serve is also very important, right? And that means that you need to work with experts in those markets that also understand what it means to have data governance in place, right? Because you need to have something more like a single group level policy defining how customer data is collected, right? How you classify this data and protect it, because you don't just collect data and then you don't protect it. Now, maybe before I end here, Timidayo, maybe I can ask you this question. Have you gone to a hotel before to lodge and the receptionist tells you, please, we will need you to provide us any form of ID, and they make a photocopy of that ID and your information, you fill a form. Have you ever asked them, where would that data be? Have you ever asked them?
Actually, I have not. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, because I have had that before, and I went to lodge in a hotel, and 2 hours later, I got a call from someone I don't know, telling me who my next of kin is, telling me he's from this place. And I eventually traced and realized that it was the data that I had provided in the hotel that I lodged that fell into the
Wow.
wrong hand. You get what I mean? So those things
Mhm.
are very important, and regulators are no longer smiling. There's NDPR and there's also GDPR and all sort of things, right? So it's very good that we all understand all of that from the get going, yeah, from the beginning.
Fantastic. Wow, wow, wow. That's fantastic. I think you've already started a conversation on one of the follow-up questions that I wanted to ask, and I think you kind of provided an answer to it, but I would maybe ask it again so you can expand. I was writing some quotes from what you said. Innovation moves faster than regulation. That's very, very solid. So you spoke about businesses or companies or fintechs that have expansion across multiple African countries, and the fact that we don't yet have that licensing, passport, and ability to ensure that you're able to say, oh, if I'm licensed in Kenya, I can piggyback off that and just do business here. And so from your perspective and as a business that is trying to expand across the Western African states, how are you leading your team to manage the multi-divergent requirements across different African countries to ensure that you are not maybe flagged in Kenya and then flagged in Rwanda for something of that kind of thing, while still maintaining, resources, being very, very resource oriented? Please, that's just like my follow-up thoughts as you were just talking.
Right. I think that's also very important, right? And I think that one of the biggest challenge we have in Africa is that when once a startup raises $1 million in Nigeria, the next thing, and they're a Nigerian-based company, right? They've raised foreign investment, let's say $1 million. And then 1 month or 2 months down the line, the next thing you hear is we are launching in Kenya, we are launching in Ghana, without sufficiently even understanding their home market, right? It's risky. Aside from the fact that you need a lot of money to scale beyond borders, right? Because you have to contend with a lot of things, and things like, how do you handle, time to resolve customer due diligence, right? Okay, which is also important. How do you handle, things like incident recovery when it eventually happens, right? And so if you cannot, if you have not built a framework that would answer to those questions effectively, then it doesn't mean, I don't think you're ready to really move to other markets, right? So most of the time, also understanding the resource that you have, it's because even in terms of customer acquisition, are you acquiring the wrong sort of customers? And most of the time, there are a lot of businesses that we don't onboard because here at Verta, we are a B2B, cross-border payment solution, right? There are a lot of businesses that we can't onboard for several reasons, right? Because it's either they have it's either they don't have the required documentation or license to do what they're doing. And because we work with global financial institutions as well, and we are answerable to regulators globally as well, we will ask those questions and we will ask for those documentation before you can get onboarded. And so sometimes the go-to-market strategy depends on a lot of factors. It's not just acquiring users or driving retention or driving revenue, but also how can you acquire customers compliantly, right? The requirement for FCA in the UK, because we are a UK licensed entity, is not the same with the requirement with CBN, right? And when you onboard a Nigerian-based business, it does not necessarily mean that the Nigerian-based business, right, would be able to meet the requirement of FCA in the UK. Same way in other climes as well. So what we do is that we compare and look at, okay, if I'm going to expand to Ghana, or if I'm going to expand to South Africa, for example, what is the regulation saying, right? What are the rules, right, around moving money? You understand what I'm saying? So we take all of that into account before we make any move. But to a large extent, also in terms of ICPs, who are the ideal customer profiles that we're targeting, right? I think someone mentioned earlier on here that SEC have only approved just two.
Yeah, yeah, mentioned
And
that.
there are thousands of people in the in the wait list. But what is happening is that does it mean that there are no businesses offering those solutions that are obviously should be regulated by SEC? The question is, how are they doing that, right? Are they partnering with existing license holders, right, to be able to ride on that, to do all of that? So for me, I think all of those needs to be in place for one to be sure that you truly want to scale or you want to modify your go-to-market strategy in a way.
Wow. Wow. Fantastic. That's a very, very insightful and practical, I must add, way to approach that. I have some further questions, but please, yes, please let's use the clapping button. I have some further questions where I can see that we have less than 20 minutes to go, 18 actually. So I think I will just go into general questions and then we'll take questions from the audience. So I have two major general questions. And I think, Dr. Austin, I'll start from you. Then we just walk our way backwards. Yetunde will talk, then Toby. Then I ask the final question. and you
Mhm.
just give your closing remarks, and then we take questions from the audience. Please, if you have questions from the conversations we've been having, kindly drop them on the chat box, on the general chat box, so that our speakers can speak to them, can attend to them. All right. So I think it was last month, right? We were in the office, and then all of a sudden everybody's phone started buzzing, and the news came out that Nigeria has been taking up the grey list, the FATF grey list. And there was a lot of celebration there for the people in the compliance space. And I mean, there's been a lot of think pieces on it, different people with different divergent opinions on what that would mean for the financial space, what that would mean for the entire compliance ecosystem, and what that would mean for businesses like Virtual doing payments, within the Nigerian space. And so, I want to get your opinion and your thoughts on what do you think, or what do you see, what do you see as being the immediate impacts of our delisting, right? From the gray list, from a KYC standpoint, from a global partnership standpoint, from an investment standpoint, even down to a sanction screening standpoint, adverse media standpoint.
Right. That's actually a very important
How are
question.
you seeing this influencing business? How are you seeing it influencing regulation? Yes. So you will speak first, then Yetunde and Toby will go ahead. So please.
Look, I think the removal, right, it's the one that we didn't take lightly, because let me give you a practical example. If you're a Nigerian business onboarding on Verto, that we will KYC you normally, and then we will double KYC you, right? So we do kind of do enhanced due diligence, right, on
Yeah.
businesses coming in from Africa, and that's because
Wow.
we need to comply, with our banking partners that we work with. So any payment that happens, in Africa, in Nigeria, or in Africa, let's say South Africa, where we also have a license in, is considered high risk because it's a high risk market, right? So with the removal, what we had to do was to go back to the drawing board and say, look, what are those measures that we put in place in terms of
Mm,
onboarding that have prevented businesses that should have been onboarded with Virtual, right? And we begin to look at, okay, tick, no, keep this one, right? Keep this one. Because
mm,
that beyond Nigeria, what this also implies is that the, we can now do business with more, we can now do transaction with more businesses in Nigeria. There are businesses that have been tactically removed or been unable to be onboarded or unable to access, solutions
mm,
that our cross-border solution can provide to them. Now we can
mm,
rethink it. But just so you know, the biggest challenge why are we on this list in the first place, right? That's one of the questions that we all need to to answer. The fact that you're off the list does not mean that we'll be permanently off the list. It just has to do with what are fintechs doing,
mm,
what are payment companies doing to ensure that we remain compliant. And
mm,
just one or two bad eggs in the system, right, in the ecosystem, that creates this kind of trouble for the entire players in the space as well, right? Because when you have a porous system that allow movement of funds, money laundering, and folks, because you simply want to appeal to investors that you are smashing it, your revenues numbers are high, you have high volumes of customers on your platform and all kind of things. You leave there are opportunities for bad actors to come in, right? I think that with the FAFT, the standard is actually flexible, because what it does is that just simply allow for the use of, reliable independent data, right? Which we now have. And I think that beyond that as well, scaling into that will also promote cross-border payment within the region as well, right? Because with the removal, it simply means that if I onboard a Nigerian business, right, that Nigerian business should be able to send out ZAR to South Africa with minimal scrutiny. And with that minimal scrutiny, it's pretty much standard. You get what I mean? And also, I see a lot more investment interest, right, that will come into the country. So we expect that investors will begin to look at Nigeria more favorably. But it's not automatic. And I don't expect that to begin to come into play right now, but it would take a bit of time for that confidence to be reestablished. You understand what I mean? So, but again, what this also helps us is that we now have some sort of tiered due diligence, right? So where we're having, you know what, as a business, we now have implement like a graduated KYC structure. Low risk equals to low friction. You get what I mean? So you can now
Yeah.
onboard business with kind of onboard business with limited documentation, but you have to kind of impose strict transaction limits, right? And what that helps us do is that we can quickly cash before you move $1 million, and put everyone else in trouble. We will put you on a tiered KYC so that we can track some of those things that happen. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow. Wow. Fantastic. Yetunde, do you want to weigh in on that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Austin. I think Austin really has said it all, but for not wanting not to say anything, I would just say that, of course, once you're gray listed as a nation, that just automatically increases your risk profile in terms of investments and the kind of financial transactions that are going to happen cross-border. So the removal definitely, has been said, is a good thing. It would boost investor confidence and of course reduce the type of additional enhanced due diligence that will be carried out on transactions emanating from Nigeria or within Nigeria. Of course, as we said, investor confidence. There are some investors in some jurisdictions that are very, very risk averse, and obviously if FATF, for instance, gray lists us, they will just not touch transactions involving our country. This has been removed, as has been said by Austin. It may take time for us to see the great gains, but I think in the short term, we're already even seeing, I mean, in addition to many of the what should we call it, initiatives driven by the CBN, because CBN played a key role in this removal and engaging with the FATF, is even better ratings internationally by the rating agencies, which in turn improve the investment outlook and encourage investments into the country, FDI, and also FPI. So on the whole, it's a good thing. And it also shows that the government is, reacting positively to, criticism in terms of transparency of the financial system, because obviously if it's being gray listed kind of, gave an impression of, the lack of transparency. For a while back, it was the lack of independence of our financial FIU, things like that over time have been addressed. And hopefully going forward, we don't take steps back and then end up being on the list again. But on the whole, it's good for our economy. And we hope we can maintain that. And in terms of, foreign inflow of investments, or even outbound transactions as well, cross-border transactions, the transfer of funds, it's a very good development, and we should be happy. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Toby, I think you are, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Temidayo. So really, I mean, honestly, Austin and Yetunde have actually said everything. But yeah, just so it doesn't look like I'm not saying anything or I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, taking off Nigeria from the gray list is good. It's one thing. Yeah, but then to be honest, in my own opinion, I feel it's actually that's also should serve like a call to action to every compliance person. Let me just use that word, to every compliance person. You said at the beginning that bad actors, these scammers, they don't sleep really. They evolve every day, right? So yes, taking Nigeria off the gray list is a good one for us. It puts us in that space. It gives us investment confidence. Yes, and also improves cross-border payments with less scrutiny, as Austin had said. But yet, we should not relax. compliance should not relax. I mean, this achievement is actually, it proves that whatever CBN did and other regulators, it shows the effect, or the effect, the good effect of whatever they did. So it shows that the compliance regulations that they put in place are actually effective. But then it doesn't mean that compliance officers should now relax. We should also evolve and keep evolving, and shouldn't relax when it comes to Austin actually mentioned that there should be strict strict what's it now limits. There should be limits when it comes to cross-border payments, even though there's less scrutiny, but there should be a limit. You should limit transactions and all of that. So that should, if we can put all of this in place, it should keep us in check and keep us off the list. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. What a time we've had. I mean, my notes is full with so much of new insight and practical insight. I want to thank all of our speakers for taking out the time, the last almost 85 minutes, having conversations, answering these questions with such depth of insight and practicality. We really, really appreciate you. Before I allow you to give your final words, I just want to confirm, do we have any questions for our speakers? Do we have any questions? I can find no questions in the chat box, or everyone is just enjoying the conversations. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Or does anybody want to use the mic? All right, so there's a question from Unye Consola. She says, I appreciate the great impartation of knowledge. My question is, how can fintech responsibly integrate artificial intelligence into AML transaction monitoring while also avoiding model bias and regulatory pushback? It's a very interesting question. Toby, do you want to take that?
Yes, sure. Why not? So yeah, Consola, good question. So for fintechs, responsibly integrating AI into AML transaction monitoring, it's sort of a dicey thing. So you have to actually really be careful. So you have to ensure that your AI is properly modeled or properly programmed to understand your operations, how you want it to function. You cannot just adopt an AI solution and just pick it up and start using. You have to make it understand your approach based on from the risk side and from the rule side. So you have to make sure there are specific rule-based models. Yeah, let me put it that way: rule-based models, specific rule-based models, and risk-based models that you have to embed in the AI, right? And you cannot just leave the AI. You're talking about, I mean, transaction monitoring here. So even the AI itself needs to be properly monitored, right? So there still has to be some sort of human intervention. Yeah. So however the AI would function still depends on what you've embedded into it based on your risk-based approach and your rule-based approach.
Mm. Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Austin, do you also want to say something? I saw your thumbs up as Toby was speaking.
I think Toby, absolutely captured the whole thing, right? But so we need to be very careful about the craze about AI and what have you, right? Look, at Virtual, we implement a lot of things around AI, and it has kind of helped us a lot to solve things that ordinarily you would take our grandfathers and grandmoms to solve. right? Because of experience. And I tell you why. It's with AI today, we do on-the-spot transaction screening, whether anyone is on leave, whether the compliance guys or the compliance officer are on leave, right? You can integrate it such that today we can detect what a fake ID is. We can detect what a fake invoice
Yeah.
is. We can detect what a fake company CAC documents are, right? And these are done real time. There's Comply Advantage, that AI tools that you can integrate into your onboarding system, right? To make your onboarding flow smarter and faster. And regardless of where we are, right? And some of these solutions are off the shelf as well. So you can buy, and not necessarily building the AI from scratch. The biggest challenge is that people just want to AI, and rather than just contract folks who have the experience, the expertise to help you, or you can just buy off the shelf. But also, we also need to be very careful, right? Because their solutions depend on the product that you offer. There are it's not sometimes we spend thousands of dollars acquiring tools or softwares that don't fit into our peculiarity as Africans, right? Or as Nigeria. What works in the US is not probably the same AI solution that work in Nigeria. So you're understanding the user journey and the people that you're building for is what will determine the kind of solution that you should implement. I work a lot with compliance guys in my company or where I've worked, and I realized that they are smarter and faster these days, right? And that in the past, you probably would spend about 5 days to onboard a customer, but today is happening under an hour because
Yeah.
you're bringing in a lot of those tools to solve for that. And I think that's really interesting to see where we go from here.
Beautiful, beautiful, fantastic. Thank you so much, Toby and Dr. Austin. I believe that I can see that there are no more questions, and we've exhausted our time for for the for the webinar. I just want to say thank you to our speakers, Dr. Austin. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you so much for bringing a lot of practicality into the conversation. Toby, thank you so much for such insightful contributions, bringing in a lot of industry depth into the conversation. And I mean, thank you so much, Yetunde, for your amazing contribution, for bringing in a lot of decade worth of insights. Was so grateful. We look forward to having you again and again and again to speak with us, to share on more platforms and on more stage. I think I would allow you to give the way they do it. When you win a Ballon d'Or, you have to give a vote of 10. So I think I just allow the speakers to just do 20, 15 seconds, 20 seconds of parting words to everyone. So I think we'll just go in the order that we started. Toby first, then you today, then Austin, and we end the call.
Awesome. Yeah, Dayo, thank you. Thank you. That was a good one. Yeah, you're a funny host and a good one. Well done. Thanks. And thanks for cracking me up as well. And it was a pleasure meeting Yetunde and Austin and listening and learning from you guys as well. And yes, thanks to Regcompass as well. Have a good one.
Fantastic. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yetunde.
Thank you so much, everyone. And of course, Regcompass for inviting me to this stage. It's a pleasure to meet Austin and Toby. Thanks for the very insightful contributions. And I'll just say for the lawyers, compliance professionals, etc., on this call that are just looking for solutions looking for what they need to do. What we'll just say, I think, as a parting piece of advice is do your audits, do your risk assessments, try to understand the business that you're supporting, and bring solutions, policies, etc., to help. And even if you're looking at places where there are no laws yet, that doesn't apply to Nigeria. We have that. Still prepare, because at some point the regulator will come knocking. So just prepare. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dr. Austin?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, thanks, Regcompass, for the invitation, and obviously it's super great to be on the panel with you today and Toby. And so it's good to be here. And like just to re-echo what Yetunde mentioned, just said, guys, please do not cut corners when it comes to compliance. It's really, really, really things that can really destroy your personal reputation as well as your business reputation. It's not worth it. Be very conscious of vanity metrics, and for the purpose of social media appraisals and whatnot. Please do the groundwork, set up, build gradually, and don't be in a hurry to scale quickly. Yeah. So thank you. It was good to be here.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, our speakers. Thank you to everyone who joined from the beginning and stayed through to the very end. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you so much. And please do well to follow Red Compass. We're going to have much more conversations like this. You are very, very likely to see one of our speakers again in some of our other conversations. So you don't want to miss out on the insights. And do check us out. Follow us on IG, Twitter, X, as the case may be, on LinkedIn, so you can stay up to date with information. We also share very insightful resources. We share regulatory updates. We share regulations. We share insightful monthly recap on everything that has happened in each in different jurisdictions. Every month, regulatory roundup. This will be very, very insightful for you as a professional, as a consultant, as also a builder, so you can have a very, very vast scope of what is happening in Nigeria and in other spaces. And so we look forward to having great conversations with everyone else. And once again, thanks to our speakers. And on that note, I would say see you in the next one. Cheers, everybody. Enjoy the rest
Thanks,
of your day.
everyone. Bye.